All right. Jamie says Notre Dame will dominate Clemson again in 2023.
Okay, I want to change the wording here because I sent to you they would win decisively. So I don't know if it's going to be dominant to the same extent that it was this year, because I think Clemson will. I mean, they're obviously going to be pretty motivated. They got embarrassed last year.
Okay, let me just change it then.
Yeah, they got embarrassed. They got embarrassed last year. Believe me, that's going to be something they put a lot of extra emphasis on, right? And
all right, there you go.
And I think Clemson. I mean, I haven't seen their schedule, but I don't think they play anybody out of conference this year. Oh my god! I don't think they play anybody out of conference this year that's worth a darn, right? So, and yeah, everybody knows the ACC. Oh, they play Florida State at some point, and I think Florida State is obviously going to be good, but Clemson is, they're going to be a playoff contender-ish type of thing, right? So, they're going to be extra motivated in that game, and that game's going to be at home. It's going to be at night. They're going to sprint down the hill. They're going to touch the rock, all that stuff, right?
Dabo's going to pull a muscle. That's my hot take.
Yeah.
He's going to pull his hamstring on that night.
They're going to be nuts that game, right? And they got a lot of talent coming back, right? They got a couple of really good DTs. They got both. I think their linebackers are probably the best duo in the country, right? Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter, I think, are both studs. They got two really good safeties as well, RJ Mickens, Andrew Makuba. But they had all those guys last year, and they had two more first-round picks on the defensive line.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame took it to them. And I'm not confident in until I see something else from the defensive coordinator to make me think that this guy is Venables or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't think he is. So I'm not confident they're going to do that. Also, I think Notre Dame actually is going to have a passing game this year. In that game, they just basically only had the run, and then they were like, oh, we only have the run, and they can't stop it, so we're just going to keep doing it. So I think Notre Dame will be able to mix in and beat them with some play action too. And the main thing is if you look at their offense, and Kay Klubnik, he might be fantastic this year. Mm-hmm. He might be, right? Very well could be. But the one thing that could hold them back is I don't know how good their O-line's going to be. It's always hitting.
They've never had a good O-line, in terms of dominance. It hasn't been.
Yeah. So, and because of that, I don't know how effective, Will Shipley's a really good back, but I mean, and he did fine against Notre Dame last year, but I mean, he wasn't going to, he would have had to gone off for 200 for them to really be in that game, because they couldn't have a passing game. They didn't have a passing game. And are they going to have a passing game again this year? I do there's a receiver that I really like on their team who's going to be sophomore, Adam Randall, who I was super high on as a recruit that I think could be a stud. But they've had a lot of highly recruited guys that, who's the last stud they had at receiver? It's actually Justin Ross is the last guy.
Yeah.
Well,
before he got hurt.
Yeah, before he got hurt. I guess Amari Rogers, you can kind of say, but he was never at the Justin Ross, T. Higgins level, right? Not Mike Williams level, right? So and DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, they haven't had that guy, and they've recruited guys that are at that level, but they haven't turned into those guys. So as much as they've not had the Watson or the Trevor Lawrence since then, because obviously Uangale was, whatever, square peg, round hole, whatever you want, or just not good. And Klubnik might be great, and I do think Garrett Riley will make them better on offense. But who's a star at receiver? And if they can't make big plays in the passing game, I don't know. If you can actually kind of put numbers to stop them against the run, I think Notre Dame, I think they kind of, how they match up against Notre Dame. Also Notre Dame's corners too. If you don't have great receivers against Notre Dame's corners, I don't think you're going to complete too many passes. Right. So I just think that Notre Dame is set up well against them. And I think in that game, I just have this feeling too that Clemson is Notre Dame's Ohio State to Michigan's Ohio State. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. That's how I feel about it.
So there's a couple other factors too, because of the success. Like Notre Dame's had some success against them, right? They beat them in 2020. They lost in the ACC title game. Then they beat them again last year. And so those players, like they don't look at Clemson like I think they would look at like an Alabama. It's like we haven't beaten that team, right? Or Ohio State. Like we just can't beat them. Even though we know we can play with them, we're not beating them. Whereas Clemson, you are. And the other part too, Sam Hartman's had a lot of success against Clemson, right? They lost in overtime last year. What would he throw? Like 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns? I mean, he is not afraid of them. Like he doesn't have when you have that kind of success against the team, you look at them and you don't think like, oh, I don't know, like he's going to go in there confident. He's going to go in there feeling like I can deal against this team.
And this is the other thing. When Notre Dame plays Ohio State, like you almost have to change kind of what you do in order to be like to play a certain way to win that game. Kind of like how when you played Alabama in 2020 and how they played Ohio State last year. And I'm not saying that, it's you're going to be totally neutered by the matchup against Ohio State, but there's certain ways you have to play, I don't know, more conservative, but strategic is the way that I would put it. And I think against Clemson, because of how you feel, you kind of feel like, man, the whole playbook's open, and because of that. So, I mean, we'll say Andy Mensch. I said win decisively, not dominate, win decisively. So I think Notre Dame will beat them by double digits.
That's an evisceration, Jamie. On the road, it's an absolute evisceration, and they should shut down the program. Should it happen? That's what should happen.
You said
all right, Matt